And there we go. Massive snowstorm. I was planning on beginning an epic road trip last night, but I was strongly urged by many people not to do that, and it turns out to have been excellent advice. This is an epic snowstorm. I think they're saying biggest storm in 5 years, something like that. Choking on snow. Amazing. So we're trying out a few things here today. Gonna see how well this all works. We've got, first of all, the issue of snow, which could make it quite difficult to broadcast. I don't know if this is going to have an effect on, the cellular network. People who were watching yesterday, Sunday with Charles, you may have, I hope I didn't just screw something up. Yeah, people who were watching yesterday may have observed that the broadcast cut off prematurely due to data throttling by AT&T. That was a new plan that I had signed up for that's supposed to give me 15 gigs a month. And as it turns out, I had used 15 gigs. I guess I didn't realize I was broadcasting quite that much. But what I've done now is I've purchased another chip. So now I'll be able to use 30 gigs a month. But it's complicated to put it into a different phone and all kinds of things going on. I just wanted to come out here and have people see what's going on with the snow. Not just the report on how many inches of snow have fallen, but the impact that it's having on businesses that are already, nobody's getting a haircut today. People probably are buying booze. The restaurants are just socked in more deeply. Now wait, my interface on the phone is something screwed up. There we go. Okay, so we can see these things are closed. I can't imagine anybody coming in for a meal in the snow in these tiny little tents. Was by here before and there was a dude in there smoking a cigarette. There are some people who are snowblowing the sidewalk. It's pretty interesting. It's a really pretty heavy snowfall, so even as these guys shovel, it's getting replaced quite quickly. Now let me see if I can increase the brightness here. That's what I'm trying to do. Now there's water all over the screen, so the touch screen operations are not, that's going to be the problem. Oh my goodness. I hope this doesn't ruin the phone. Damn. Can't get it to do what I need it to do. All right, well, we're going to go with this. Now remember, everybody, if there's any disruption to the broadcast like there was on yesterday's Sunday with Charles, you can get it on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. That's the sponsor exclusive channels there. Boy, this is a lot more difficult with water all over the screen. Stand by, everybody, for just a moment, because there's a number of wonderful things I want to... All right, well, we'll see how long this holds up for. Let's see if we can get the... There we go. I don't know if people can see this, but the snow is falling so quickly. Things are just changing on the screen without me touching them. Even as this guy snow plows it, it's just falling right over it again. So be careful plowing or shoveling or whatever you might be doing today. Snow introduces all kinds of complications, as we can see, just from running the camera, touching the phone screen. It very rapidly might deteriorate to a situation where I'm not able to switch back and forth between camera angles or show us some of the various stuff we wanted to talk about. So I gotta say, I do enjoy snowstorms in Manhattan. They're kind of rare, so that makes them interesting. Oh, okay, wow. Very difficult to see the screen. Maybe I'll just leave it forward looking here. They're rare, they're overwhelming, and I mean, this is a force of nature. If you thought New York City was shut down or non-functional before, I mean, get a load of this. So, I mean, you can see, you got to keep up the shoveling so that it doesn't get too heavy, but you could shovel one little square of sidewalk all afternoon and not be done. So we're just going to kind of walk around and check out what the snow is doing. I would not want to be in a bus like that. They get the chains on the tires, but I mean, that's just tons of, oh, see, this is where the cigarette smoke is coming from, walking right behind that person. So disgusting. So we can see some snow removal vehicles over here. And they say for every inch of snow that falls in Manhattan, it's $1 million for removal. I'm on 23rd Street and 6th Ave over here. Normally, looking down this direction, we can very clearly see the World Trade Center, but it's an absolute whiteout, snowblind conditions. You would not want to be driving around today. Definitely not recommended to start heading south where the snow is even worse. New Jersey, Philadelphia. I mean, even just leaving New York City, you kind of got to go through New Jersey and to get anywhere. Good thing we've got NYPD over here. I don't know what they're going to do against snow, but if they're as effective as they are against riots and destruction and assaults, yeah, that's it. We just push it around. Don't really do anything. Getting ready to arrest the snow. There was a huge line outside the supermarket yesterday, as you might imagine, and 25th Street is normally totally occupied by bicycle delivery guys who are working for Whole Foods / Amazon, and today they are not there. So if you don't have food in your place, you're in trouble. Luckily, I was able to make it to the supermarket late last night before it closed, picked up a couple of items. This snowstorm right now is expected to last until tomorrow, which is that is unusual. Definitely there have been large snowstorms. I mean, yesterday when I was out with Charles and Tara walking around, Charles was cautioning me about leaving that night for the road trip, and I was sort of, at least initially, I was inclined to still go because it really wasn't snowing that hard last night, and my feeling was, getting out of New York City before this mess hits would have been a good idea. However, as the evening went on, the snow was picking up, and certainly this morning when I woke up, it was even heavier than it was last night and yesterday. And I would say that throughout the day, today, it's gotten even heavier. So it's, I think, a good thing that I did not go. I've been seeing reports of literally hundreds of auto accidents on the road. And I saw earlier people driving out of New York City in U-Hauls. I would not want to drive a U-Haul today. I don't know if people watching have ever rented or driven a U-Haul, but they aren't exactly performance vehicles. They're big and heavy and hard to see out of, and if you get into some kind of, low traction situation in a U-Haul, you're in serious trouble. And also, don't forget, if you're in some kind of highway accident in conditions like this, rescue vehicles and emergency services might not be able to reach you. So it is quite dangerous. And the big concern for me here in New York City is potential power outage. That is catastrophic because no water to the apartment in the event of power outage. See the Flatiron Building. Well, wait a minute. Let me make sure we're live here. There are a few cars driving around, which is pretty wacky. What are they doing? Whoa. Talk about wind. Looks like we're live. Water to the apartment in the event of power outage. I mean, this is unbelievable snow. There's a bunch of other stuff I want to talk about. I know that people are very interested in knowing the status of New York City. You cannot see the Empire State Building at all. Here's our buddy, what's his name, who is the subject of the thumbnail. Also, I was getting another weird echoing problem with the other headset. Had to switch to a headset that is going to unfortunately limit my battery power. There are so many technical considerations in doing these, particularly mobile live streams. It would boggle people's minds if they... I mean, I can barely see out of my glasses, let alone this electronic equipment. There's so much snow going on right now. And you know what? There's also the danger that the water on the screen could accidentally accumulate and, effectively touch the stop recording button. Because, there's some sort of... The screen on the phone, any touch screen, it's like some kind of transistor that your finger completes when it touches it, so you start getting water all over it, as people have probably experienced themselves. It doesn't work that well, so if this ends early, that'll be the end of it. Yeah, I mean, it's giving me audio level meters on here right now or something, which I'm not trying to get. So this is a hit or miss kind of broadcast. Let's see, maybe before the screen gets too unusable, let me see if I can show people these videos. There was, I got to give it some background before I get into the videos. I don't know if we're going to be able to do this here. There's so much water on the screen. Maybe that'll have to be another video, another day. But we were talking briefly yesterday. I don't know if these glasses are even worth... Where should I put them? I don't want to lose my glasses. I think they still hear the phone talking to me in my back pocket. So much water on the screen. There we go. All right, so I'm in the park. There are a few people here in the park. Everything is getting wet. The screen is somehow upside down now. Very bizarre. All right, let's see if we can make this work. Glasses in the pocket, seems safe. Okay. So we've got this Vice Media, Vice TV, whatever the hell it's called. They've put together a little documentary miniseries. They're trying to tell people about the 17th letter of the alphabet, what it is, where it came from. They're going to figure it out. They're serious journalists, accomplished documentarians. They know what they're doing. Everything else is fake news and a conspiracy theory, but they have the answers. Now, I've been focusing most of my attention on Marley Clements.
I guess Rob doesn't want to be on it anymore. I don't know.
This guy's one of these loud talkers who, even behind you, you can hear him coming from a mile away. So I've been focusing on this woman, Marley Clements, because she's the one who presented the information in the broadcast. And the thing that's really disconcerting about it is they're essentially promoting the same narrative as Robert David Steele and a variety of other people who have tried to sue me. People will recall that there was an incident on June 14th, 2017. You can go back on the Crowdsource the Truth, the main Jason Goodman YouTube channel, because Crowdsource the Truth 2, the backup channel, was not around in 2017, nor was Crowdsource the Truth 3, the secondary backup channel. Hopefully people will definitely subscribe to both of those now, because we've got social engineers daily trying to destroy Crowdsource the Truth and eliminate it from the internet. One of the best ways you can help prevent that, Boy, it's getting real. The screen is totally coated. I don't know if this is gonna... Gotta get all this water off of here. This is probably not gonna end well. But, yeah, the best way people can help prevent Crowdsource the Truth from getting eliminated from the internet is to become sponsors, but I recognize that a lot of people can't do that. Totally appreciate the stress, the financial stress that everybody is under, but certainly no reasonable person will put in any kind of comment disparaging me for attempting to create a business and provide information and broadcasts to people who want to see what's going on in New York City and around the country. Whoop. Did that just... What happened? Why'd the audio stop? What is going on here? There's something... I don't know, my microphone just stopped... Could there be water accumulating in there? This is extreme condition. Check, 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 check. Check, check, check. Can I be heard? It sounds so muffled. Oh, I don't know. I guess the microphone is wet now. I guess I'll plug that up. If people are going to be able to hear me, I have no monitor on the audio now, which is dangerous, and a virtual guarantee that the audio will fail. But this is video production triage over here. Might have to end this sooner than I had hoped. I really wanted to try to make it up to Times Square to see what's going on over there. Okay, I can see the screen. It's flashing in between all its different functions here. So now we got the built-in microphone going. I guess I can't have that other thing plugged in. I don't know if people are going to be able to hear me that well. This might not be the best conditions to present that Vice media information under. So let's hold that for another episode and maybe focus on just taking a look at what's going on around in New York. Who is shaking the snow globe? Yeah, it's low. How does it sound now? Is it better? Because I'm just going with the... Okay, go under the awning and fix it. Well, that's what I'm trying to do. All right, so people are saying it sounds fine. I'm not going to get a coffee. I do appreciate the suggestions, although they're a little bit kind of out of the blue here. All right, so let's see if we can get some of this information about Vice News out, because it is important. You know, there are people who watch the show who are fans of the 17th letter of the alphabet. I need to reiterate, I fully reject the entire operation. And I know there are honest, well-meaning people who want it to be true, who like it, who point to certain things that it says in posts that they think are important or relevant or proof of something. But, I mean, please keep in mind, we don't know who created it. We don't know what their objective is. And in my view, it right now seems so clearly to be an operation intended to entrap people, to associate them with that 17th letter of the alphabet movement, and then to make it appear not only ridiculous, but to classify it as a terrorist organization, you know, or whatever the FBI did. They said it's inciting violence, it's inciting terrorism. Now anybody associated with it is, you know, considered a terrorist. And this is exactly what Robert David Steele and his associates, including George Webb and members of George Webb's family who we've spoken about before, this is what they're trying to do. To convince people, first, that I had something to do with an alleged terrorist event at the port of Charleston. I was just having George as a guest on the show. He provided me with information. People should go and watch that video for themselves. The FBI has conducted an investigation. Obviously, me. They questioned George when he was incarcerated. Holy crap! Oh my God! See, one thing you got to watch out for walking around New York City is that huge snow and ice bombs can fall from buildings like that. Anyway, I was just receiving information from George. I knew nothing about this whole entire thing before George called me and said, all right, I got information, we're gonna go live. one of the things that super annoyed me about him is that he was just always so frantic, like, let's go live now. And I think people who've been watching the show for a while realize that my style is not to just pop on a camera and run out and go live. The shows are planned, the time is planned, the equipment is complicated, getting it set up properly. I usually like to take some time. Now, this is a style that's developed over the years, and obviously in the first couple of months I was doing this when I was working with George, I was just trying to accommodate him and, do whatever he wanted to do. So he would call me and say, oh, well, here's what we're going to call the show. And so he came up with that title. The reason I'm even mentioning it is because Vice News brought it up in their documentary. The title was, Calm Before the Storm, Maersk Memphis, Calm Before the Storm, something like that. But, George had called and said, name it this. I'm, heading here or there, and I'll call you back, and we'll go live, and we'll talk about what's going on. He then proceeds to spend over 2 hours convincing me. Oh, wow, look at how fogged up that is. Huh. He then spends nearly 2 hours attempting to convince me that there could be an incident of real serious danger and destruction, and that if nothing were done, what he said was that it could be more dangerous than 9/11. So this obviously, caused a great deal of concern. Well, you'd hate to be living there tonight or any night. People can go back and watch that video. By the way, all these social engineering attacks on Crowdsource the Truth, if they work and have the net effect of deleting Crowdsource the Truth from the internet, many aspects of evidence that are basically being scrutinized in a variety of different federal cases will be destroyed. So that's problematic. I don't want to see that happen. Becoming a sponsor won't stop that from happening, but it does help me fight these lawsuits. Particularly, people know that I'm being sued by the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. You can visit crowdsourcethetruth.com, and if you scroll down past today's video, you're going to see the Counter Lawfare Fund. There's a lot of options for sponsoring the Counter Lawfare Fund. You can get an annual subscription for yourself. You can get a 3-year annual subscription. And as you start to go to some of the higher tiers, you get the 3-year annual subscription for yourself as well as family members. I've taken the advice of audience members and made an effort to make these higher valued plans a better value for the sponsor. So if you are already a sponsor at that higher tier, just send me an email. I'm going to do my best to go back through the list of sponsors and make sure everybody gets those benefits, but there's just so much going on that I'm trying to handle. Please be patient with me if that takes a bit of time. What a scene this is. I'd hate to be shoveling snow today. Yeah, so anyway, in retrospect, it seems really like somebody planted this information on Crowdsource the Truth. They wanted to create this incident where I or the audience or whoever responded to this information and created what they would categorize as a panic and have an event that they could say was a terrorist event. Remember, it proliferated through the mainstream news. Donnie O'Sullivan, the CNN, Donnie O'Sullivan from CNN, he reported on it. He interviewed George and myself, and basically his report did not really accurately reflect the content of the interview, but that's a separate story. It was in the New York Times. It was all over the place. And it's interesting, that was June 2017. The Vice News story says that the 17th letter of the alphabet phenomenon began in October. I think they said October 28th, 2017. I mean, I remember that it was, middle towards the end of 2017. I wasn't following it that closely ever. I'm aware of it, obviously, from the inception. And so from that standpoint, there's things that I know about it that even people who follow the, stupid drops may not know. And so many people who revere that dumb thing constantly told me, you don't know anything about it, you got to read the drops and do this and that. That is not how I analyze these types of things. People who've watched David Hawkins' Discovery CSI on Fridays on Patreon and Subscribestar, they're going to know that David's been talking for a while about analyzing narratives to understand the characters and understanding characters to analyze the narratives. That's what I've been doing. And it's the characters that surround this stupid operation that cause me to not trust it at all. Man, my face is burning. I'm talking about Tracy Diaz. I'm talking about Manuel Chavez. I'm talking about just so many of the people that were closely associated with the thing from the beginning. And frankly, even Michael Flynn. I don't know why we all necessarily trust him. I believe I've grown to distrust him. Whether he is willfully or against his will involved, I think it's quite clear that he has knowledge of this 17th letter deal that perhaps is not obvious to everyone. And I don't know what his purpose is. I don't know what the purpose of the 17th letter of the alphabet movement is. And that's the big reason why I don't trust it. I just don't trust anonymous things whose objectives I am not aware of. That's why I've been urging people to have caution. And I mean, after January 6th and what happened, and what the press and soon the criminal justice system is going to do to the people that were involved, I mean, if you cannot see and understand what is going on with that 17th letter of the alphabet after all of that, I can't help you. But do not try to convince me that it's anything other than a disaster. In my estimation, what it was intended to do was attract people's attention by appealing to their biases, things that they already believe. Now, I don't remember some of the specific details about some of the claims that are being made on the Vice News show, eating babies, and there's some guy who apologized to Anderson Cooper for thinking he was eating babies. I don't have any evidence of anybody eating a baby. I've never seen that. But it's interesting that whether it's Savannah, whatever her name is, talking to the President of the United States, or Marley Clements talking on this Vice News thing, but they want to disparage people by saying this 17th letter is a debunked conspiracy theory that alleges that the world is controlled by elite pedophiles who eat babies. Now, here's the interesting thing about that. Sure, that can be posed in a way that makes it sound patently ridiculous, but when we consider what's gone on, from just in the past couple of years, Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, Nexium, Prince Andrew, your Jimmy Savile at the BBC. Oh, you stuck? I was just parking there. Okay, that's cool. You just leave it. I mean, the point of the matter is there is no doubt that there is a disgusting amount of child abuse and copious evidence to indicate that people like Jeffrey Epstein and the Nexium cult. I mean, I'm forgetting some. There's so many bizarre weirdos who are, this guy with the Lincoln Project now. So, I mean, they're trying to make the whole entire genre of research seem ridiculous. And I mean, who would want to do that other than people that don't want that to be investigated? So, aside from making one of the most serious crimes imaginable seem like something that people don't want to investigate for fear that they'll be marginalized and, accused of being part of a terrorist organization or whatever. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought trying to keep track of this equipment if it's still working and not slip and fall. But, you know, this is the way I see a lot of these things working. You got a crime. And basically, if nobody finds out about it, it doesn't get prosecuted. If it gets into the news and people start talking about it and there's demands for investigations and things like this, that creates a problem for the people perpetrating the crime. Now, they had this fairly well under control for a long time. I'm talking heavy-hitting criminals by controlling the news. Keep your major crimes out of the news, your likelihood of getting prosecuted is way lower. And for people who don't know, you should Google something called Operation Mockingbird. This is a declassified CIA program revealed by William Colby during the Church Committee hearings. And what it was is an operation whereby the CIA paid and otherwise influence, the key word there. How's the audio sound, everybody? Yeah, someone is saying that Obama, Clinton op. I agree with that, Living Waters. How's the sound here? Hopefully you can hear me. But yeah, if you can keep your crimes out of the news, you're money ahead as far as preventing a prosecution. And Operation Mockingbird was effective at controlling what went into the news and therefore controlling what a lot of people thought was true or false. If the news says XYZ happened, lots of people believe that. If the news says, oh, well, you know, Jason Goodman's a conspiracy theorist, a lot of people believe that, even though it's not true. And by the way, it's irrelevant. I mean, true, not true, what is a conspiracy theorist? Most people have been so, incorrectly programmed by that word. They use the word conspiracy and falsehood interchangeably. They say, oh, is this true or is it just a conspiracy theory? Well, a conspiracy theory could be a true and correct analysis of a conspiracy. You start with a theory, sort of a hypothesis. You vet that theory, and you may find out that it's true. Anyway, the point of the matter is the Vice documentary shows my name, shows a clip from one of my videos that they didn't ask me to use. It's not necessarily a problem. It's newsworthy. It's in the public domain. They can use it. The problem becomes when they defame me by saying something that's untrue. I'm not going to go into the specific details of what was said that was untrue, but many things were. And it was it was basically an effort to associate me with that letter, with that movement, with that thing that's now being widely regarded as a terrorist organization, an extremist organization. It's closely linked to the events of January the 6th at the Capitol building. In fact, we've got our buddies here at Vice News. See, I can't even touch things on the screen now because there's so much water on the screen. There we go. So our buddies here at Vice News, they're loving this topic. They're all over it. They've got the Water Buffalo Lodge guy. They're using this to smear Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's a very vocal President Trump supporter, just recently won a seat in Congress. And, they're going to try to use this to get her kicked out of Congress. So, people who are still supporting it, people who don't realize that it was, in fact, a psychological operation. It was a psychological operation aimed at you. And if you fell for it, and you read the drops, and you dress up in the outfits, and you go around telling people about all these unvetted theories that became associated with that thing, you're not thinking for yourself. It's not encouraging people to do research for themselves. It's encouraging people to research the crap that it's writing. Doing research for yourself is going out into the world, talking to people, asking questions, looking for evidence, not reading crap on anonymous boards like 4chan and 8chan and 8kun and all this. Why are people so quick to believe anonymous sources? A lot of snow removal activity. So the thing that's really most interesting to me about this Vice News report is some of the people who are involved in it.
Whoa,
What?
pay attention.
I am paying attention. Don't tell me what to do, asshole. I saw you standing right there. Stick that fucking snow shovel up your ass.
Come on, let me see you go. Come on.
Hey, fuck you, buddy. Mind your own damn business. See, this is why I gotta leave New York City. I was fucking looking right at that idiot. I saw what he was doing. He's pissed off. He's got to shovel the sidewalk, so he's got to have something to say. I try to avoid that, but you know, you get morons like that. It's really unpleasant in New York, folks. You know, I was reading a thing. We'll get back to Vice News in a minute. I was reading a thing that said that this pandemic is having a real serious effect on people's mental health. The stress of being locked inside, the uncertainty of the economy. It's wearing on people. And see, jackasses like that, they gotta have something to say. We've seen it happen all over the place. I was nowhere near that guy. Anyway, what's going to happen? I'll slip and fall and hurt myself. He's got nothing to worry about. People need to mind their own business. Don't be telling other people to wear masks and things like that, unless somebody's doing something that's about to hurt you. I'm looking right at the guy. I'm looking at the screen. So where was I with Vice News? Look at this mess. Smith Munt, people are saying in the comments, yes. House arrest, yes, that's what they got us under. This is really a serious blizzard. So I am glad that I did not begin my road trip in this serious blizzard. I can't even see how much battery power is left here. 24% or 34% or what, but it's cold, so the batteries don't last that long. Oh, wait a minute, maybe I could plug in the battery now that the microphone's not plugged in. Let's see if we can do that. There's snow in there. I don't know, this might electrocute the whole thing. Let's see. Seem to be charging it. Yeah, and it says 24%, so that's not so good. Ah, now it's charging. Okay, so we can carry on. I hope people can still hear me. Let's see. Muffled again. Yeah, I mean, I think it's because there's ice all over the phone. It's probably freezing up the microphone. I apologize. This is one of the craziest walks ever. I mean, you know, tons and tons of technical issues. We got a hot rod snowplow or something. What is that? So Vice News does this whole story about the 17th letter of the alphabet. And they choose to interview and focus their story on people who, since June 14th, 2017, have been trying to associate me with what they claim is a bomb hoax at the Port of Charleston. Now, it may well have been. It may well have been. But I had nothing to do with planning it. George Webb met with Okie Marshall Richards. Okie Marshall Richards allegedly told George there was radiological material on a ship and that it could pose a serious threat, and that something had to be done. And George spends 2.5 hours. You see, this is how we want to start to identify these social engineering operations. Why didn't Ogie Marshall Richards call the Coast Guard if he knew this? I should have been thinking about that back then, but I was pretty green. It was 4 years ago. I was naive, trusted George. Huge mistake, by the way. You know, all this trust the plan, trust sessions. No, I don't know those guys. I don't know who's telling me to trust who. Why would I trust that? Because the information appeals to a bias? Or because it sounds good, or it sounds like something I want? No, can't do that. Can't trust that. So these guys have spent a lot of time trying to associate me with that event in the port of Charleston, claiming that I did it, that there was wrongdoing, that I was somehow, you know, guilty. And George's brother even put out an insane video that he's since deleted, where he's saying that he's gonna create an incident report and get a senator to investigate me and get the FBI to investigate me and put me in jail. He said all kinds of things. And at the time, you know, I was quite concerned. People might recall Robert David Steele sent me an email saying I was going to be arrested by the NYPD. That was his concocted notion. That was not true. I contacted the NYPD. If there were a warrant for my arrest, I would have turned myself in. But they obviously did not have a warrant for my arrest. I was never arrested. I've never been arrested. Never been accused of a crime. Never been involved in a crime. And when I called Robert David Steele to ask him about this, he was, you know, just rude, cursing, acting like a crazy person. I recorded that phone call and played it, and he got very upset. He goes, I didn't even realize it at the time, or maybe I did, but that was the first part of unwinding their idiotic plan. And you see, this was all before the 17th letter of the alphabet came about. I suppose it was planned at that point, but I think that this incident in the port of Charleston was kind of a precursor, because if you look at the news reporting from June 15th, 2017, and the language that they're using, you know, they're saying conspiracy theorists on the internet could pose a real danger, and they incite their audiences to do things, and we need censorship, and we need, you know, certified news. You know, we got all, since then we've had all that NewsGuard stuff. People are going to remember that Mr. Boozy, the CEO of Bot Sentinel, was asking, you know, has my evidence been certified by some law enforcement agency? Since when do I need law enforcement agency certification for my evidence? I thought a lot of people on his side of this argument want to defund the police. Now he only trusts information that's coming from the police? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Evidence is evidence. I mean, when it's carefully scrutinized by smart people, you don't need the cops to verify evidence. I mean, you might want to bring it to the cops so that somebody can act on it and actually prosecute some of these crimes, but it doesn't happen very often. Anyway, you know, these guys, I think, wanted to set me up as a patsy, get me arrested by the FBI, have me on the news, have me serve as an example. You know, they wanted to terminate the Jason Goodman YouTube channel. They wanted Jason Goodman to be remembered as a conspiracy theorist who almost caused the, you know, destruction of a port or whatever the hell they were getting at. But they did not succeed in doing that. I think it probably had to do with them being idiots and not executing their plan properly. As you might recall, George's dopey friend Joe called the Coast Guard, and George's other dopey friend Doug also called the Coast Guard. So I never actually even told the Coast Guard anything about it. Vice News creatively edits the video from my own channel. Need a windshield wiper on this thing. Vice News creatively edits the Crowdsource the Truth video to manipulate what's being said. They show my name, they show my face, they take selected portions of the conversation and juxtapose it against images of some of the stupidest and craziest people around on the internet in a show about a psychological operation intended to attract a bunch of people and then discredit every single one of them, call them terrorists, call them associates of a criminal organization, and use it to destroy their credibility, destroy their careers, prosecute them criminally. Oh yeah, the other thing that Vice was reporting on is that this idiot Water Buffalo Lodge guy, Stu Shaman, he's flipped on Trump. Like he was somehow with Trump and now he's flipped. Well, where have we heard about this before? I mean, this is the exact same tactic they used when Susan Holmes, who was appearing as Queen Tut, she came to me saying, oh, you don't like Robert David Steele? Yeah, I don't like Robert David Steele either. I got information about him that could help you. That's how they get you. Oh, I got information. I have something you want. Money or who knows what lots of ways they try to entice people, but this is their tactic, double agents. That's another concept that David Hawkins talks about. Holy crap, look at my eyebrows. This is a hectic snowstorm. You know what? When I was walking around before, I was thinking to myself, well, at least there's far fewer jackasses around, and then we got that shovel genius. Anyway, point of the matter is, double agents, the double cross. David Hawkins talks about it all the time. If you're not watching David Hawkins' Discovery CSI, you got to watch it. I'll tell you, that's one show that the social engineers absolutely hate. They will not leave David alone. It's crazy. So, I mean, that to me is a strong indicator that he must be onto something, because if what he was saying were nonsense, they would just ignore it. But, I mean, they are just persistently after him, persistently after me. It's astounding. Oh, yeah. I forgot to mention. Eagle-eyed docket watchers are going to notice that the Emmys just docketed a really lengthy motion to dismiss. So they're not afraid to spend a lot of money. I mean, this thing was like 25 pages. They're using this big Washington, D.C. law firm. They have 3 lawyers on every call. I know what my bill is like. I can't imagine what theirs is. So why would they do that? They wanted to drop the whole thing a little while ago. I told them I would do that if they paid my legal bill, and they refused. So they didn't want to pay the legal bill, but they wanted to pay their own legal bill to a much more expensive lawyer to write a 25-page. Lawyers out there, how much do you think that would cost? I mean, that's thousands of dollars. Lots of time. There's something very strange going on with this Emmy lawsuit. I'm in Rockefeller Center. Speaking of the Emmys, they're not here, but, television. Blinded and not paying attention, I walked right past Times Square. Oh, sorry, people probably can't hear me going down there. So I gotta hold my arm in a weird position. Oh boy, I just almost fell. Yeah, pretty treacherous out here today in New York. So the question that I have for Vice News, and I've been unable to get Marley Clements on the phone. Wow. Snow. Oh, did that stop it? Snow was hanging on the stop button. Wow, it's really problematic. Haven't been able to get her on the phone because I want to know why this New York City-based production company, if they're going to travel to Carson City, Nevada to get Manuel Chavez's viewpoint on all this stuff and feature him so prominently in their show, and they're going to travel to Washington, D.C. to feature Robert David Steele and have his point of view on all this stuff and feature him so prominently. They're in New York City. Obviously, they've seen Crowdsource the Truth. They're including my video footage. They must know that I'm also here. Why wouldn't they just call me to verify if the things they were saying about me were true? See, that's strange. They didn't even use my name. Whereas in the case of Chavez, they use his name, They use his social engineering name, his internet handle. These are things that promote him. People watching Vice will now go. See, I always refer to him as Manuel Chavez because that's his name, and I'm not into referring to social engineers by their fake names or promoting the social engineering operations of social engineers. I would like these people to be brought to justice, but Vice wants you to know how to find them on the internet, how to subscribe to their YouTube channels. You know, all these things lead to monetization for those guys, to expanding the reach of the type of material that they're putting out. It's interesting. They don't mention my name. You know who else used to do that? Kevin Shipp. Even when we were doing a show together, he would never promote it when he would appear with Greg Hunter, who used to work for CNN. Never would even mention, oh, I have a show on Crowdsource the Truth. I'm not saying he has to promote me, but I think people watching know. I promote all the co-hosts. I tell people to watch John Cullen, David Hawkins, the Moriartys. Tonight, we've got the Moriartys. You can see that on patreon.com/James and Joanne Moriarty. In addition to Patreon, subscribe to our channel on Crowdsource the Truth. We have David Hawkins. We have Lee Stranahan now is back on Tuesdays. John Cullen. I like to make teams. I like to help people. I like to, work together to make things. Try to make the world a better place so we can all have a nice time and enjoy justice and peace. I'm not trying to screw people over or take what I can get from me at somebody else's expense. I was always bothered by that Kevin Shipp would never, ever, ever mention Crowdsource the Truth. He would never even mention the intelligence assessment. It was almost as if he was doing the show with me to keep tabs on me, to control what was said, at least in that particular show. But he didn't want to push it too far to help it grow. They didn't want to do that. There are several people, actually, who behaved in this way, and it's curious, you know? When people do stuff that doesn't make sense, it could be that they're crazy, or stupid, or they have some agenda that you're not aware of, and if you knew about it, maybe it would make sense. So, very curious that Vice News supports the same narrative as Robert David Steele and various other people who are trying to sue me and associate me with terrorist activities in the Port of Charleston and with this 17th letter of the alphabet. Something I have nothing to do with, something I have renounced from the day it arrived, and something that I denounce today. If you're still paying attention to it and supporting it, I urge you to reconsider that. Sure, there's things that were mentioned that we all support. We want, criminals to go to jail. We want abused children to be saved from their abusers. This Lincoln Project guy, what the hell is going on with that? All the people, it seems, who want to tell you that, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. You think there's pedophiles. Of course there are. They're getting arrested all the time. But it never seems to quite go to the top. So who is protecting these people and why? And why are they creating these operations that are intended to attract people to them and then create trouble for the people who are involved in them? The other thing that's quite interesting is, we were talking yesterday and we went down to Zuccotti Park for this Reoccupy Wall Street that's very concerned with the Wall Street Vets movement and what's going on with GameStop, and now I understand there's some kind of thing happening with the price of silver, run up on the price of silver. So what is that? Some people think this is a populist revolution against hedge funds. Several people were disappointed with Charles Ortel's evaluation of the situation, perhaps a pro-Wall Street point of view. I don't know enough about it to be able to really evaluate by it. I don't know enough about hedge funds and Wall Street and all that to make a really, well-educated assessment of some of these opinions. But again, just like I don't need to read drops to understand what is going on with that stupid operation, I don't need to understand all the details of short selling and squeezing and naked short selling. I don't need to understand all the details of that to know certain things about this that are cause for concern. People might have heard I asked Gavin Wax, who is in charge of this thing? Who is the leader? You know, when you talk about Apple Computer, you know it's Tim Cook. When you talk about Google, you know it's that guy, Punjai, whatever his name is. I don't really remember his name. You know, Facebook, Zuckerberg. All right, people will say, oh, no, it's not them. It's the CIA created that or whatever. Okay, but the point is there is a spokesperson to some extent. We have no spokesperson for Wall Street Bets. It's that cartoon that kind of looks like Trump, kind of looks like Wolf of Wall Street, Leo DiCaprio. I don't know who that's supposed to be, what that's supposed to be. I don't know what the end objective of this thing is. All these people who are investing with Robinhood or whatever, I don't know what's going to happen to them. I don't have any money invested in that thing. I did find out today that Jared Kushner's brother owns a venture capital firm that was involved in, I think, the IPO or perhaps the starting of Robinhood, and there was another Russian, I meant to screen capture that. There was a Russian venture capitalist who was involved, who I want to ask Lee Stranahan if he has anything to do with Bill Browder. Because that would make a lot of sense. Wasn't Bill Browder part of a team that plundered the Soviet Union when it was falling apart and capitalized on failing assets by buying them for pennies and screwing the public and whatever? I mean, that's what I see happening with Wall Street Bets. Unless I understand something very well and know who's behind it, like even then, you can sometimes be fooled and run into trouble. So I am reserving judgment of Wall Street Bets. To me, it looks like the 17th letter of the alphabet meets Wall Street, because we've got an anonymous internet entity guiding people to do things and research things and, you know, go after things that maybe seem to make sense but maybe also don't. And I mean, frankly, from my point of view, I see this Wall Street Bets as being a lose-lose for many people. I mean, obviously it hasn't played out yet. I don't know. This is just my gut. I don't trust these anonymous things. Ah, yes, and here's the other thing. Dogecoin was mentioned very early on in this Wall Street Bets mess. Dogecoin. It's some kind of cryptocurrency or something, right? Like Bitcoin and whatever. I don't know what makes Dogecoin more or less appealing to anybody than Bitcoin, but I do know Manuel Chavez was talking about it in 2017, and now suddenly it's huge. I'd have to go back and review some of those Quinn Michaels videos, but I think Manuel Chavez might have even been involved in the team that created Dogecoin. So isn't that weird that all of these anonymous internet operations seem to somehow involve Manuel Chavez? And by no means am I saying that he's the mastermind. I don't believe that. I think he's a hired stooge who does these things as a part of a plan for other people. Oh yeah, there's something else important that Marley Clemens, I probably mentioned this the other day, but Marley Clemens and Manuel Chavez did not talk about the fact that they both worked for OFA. What is that? Organizing for Action, Obama for America, something like that. They both worked for that. That's interesting. Marley Clemens also worked for the Brookings Institution, where our friend Ben Wittes works, where I've been trying to get him to look at evidence that I think proves that Peter Smith was murdered. They want you to think he committed suicide. They've done a lot of reporting with Shane Harris. So we've got all these connections to these different things. And then I was looking up the CEO of Vice. Her name escapes me right now. She's Emmy nominated. If you Google CEO of Vice News, it's a woman. You'll see her on the Step and Repeat, you know, the red carpet there, with her husband at the Emmys. Ooh. So I don't know. Are these, is this a conspiracy theory, or are there connections between these things? I mean, frankly, I think what they're trying to say about me is a conspiracy theory. I didn't know Okie Marshall Richards was a FBI informant until they told me. And, you know, why did I continue doing shows with him after the Port of Charleston incident? Well, I didn't know that that was incorrect information. We still actually don't know if it was incorrect information. The FBI says there was no dirty bomb, but that doesn't mean they didn't find radiological material on the ship. That doesn't mean they didn't find containers controlled by Awan Brothers Shipping on the ship. I mean, George Webb wasn't arrested. Well, sorry, he was arrested for failure to control his vehicle, but the FBI didn't arrest him for calling in a false bomb, whatever it is that Robert David Steele wanted to pin on me. So they investigated and they determined that it was either, you know, sufficiently valid information that is worth looking into. I've always made the analogy, I mean, if you're at the airport and you see a suitcase unattended, let's say you even hear a sound coming from it, a clicking, a buzzing, and you go tell the cops, hey, I hear something ticking in that bag and there's nobody around it, and the cops go over, they hear the ticking. Let's say they call the bomb squad, shut down the airport, open up the bag, and they realize, oh, it's somebody's electric toothbrush that's running, and the person passed out in the bathroom, and that's why the bag was unattended. Do they go arrest the guy who told them to check it out because it wasn't a bomb? No. Do they call that person a conspiracy theorist because they heard something and saw something and put facts together in a way that caused them to be concerned that if it was a bomb, the risk of that should be high, that something should be done? That's what's going on in Port Charleston, and I believe that that's what the FBI determined. That's the most likely determination in my estimation. Because otherwise, they would have called me up and come to my apartment or called me to their, you know, FBI office and said, hey, you're a conspiracy theorist and you're doing dangerous things and we're going to arrest you. But they didn't do that. So now George's brother thinks it's his job to make that stick, to get other people to investigate, to bring it into civil lawsuits, to bring it into, and I'm not saying George's brother did this, but it's interesting to see people whose objectives are aligned. They want to bring that same information into a Vice special, a documentary, and they want to show my image and show my name and have my voice. But they do seem to be carefully doing it in such a way to try to avoid implicating themselves in certain ways. I don't want to say much more about it right now, but it's just super interesting that that Vice documentary definitely appears to have the same agenda as some of these people that we're talking about. Now, is that a coincidence? Could be. Is this a coincidence theory? I mean, these are facts. The things that I'm saying are true. They happened. How's the sound holding up, everybody? Where's the ball for New Year's Eve? It would drop from up there. But you've got to be Mayor de Blasio or his wife to be able to see it. So it's funny, from the time I ask a question to the time that people hear it and then are able to comment, there is quite a delay. So I hope the sound is good. This is a method I haven't used before. I really don't like recording anything when I don't have the ability to monitor it, but well, people are disappointed that about the energy. Okay, the sound is fine. That's good to know. Right, so Vice News, at least, totally irresponsible to include me in their story, show my name, show that incident, and, you know, they imply somehow foreknowledge, because they make a point of saying that the title of that video is Calm Before the Storm. And then some short time later, Trump says calm before the storm. I mean, you know, to me, this is not proof that the 17th letter of the alphabet knows anything. These seem like parlor tricks. These seem like the types of things that a magician or a mentalist or a psychic or some sort of charlatan would use to make you think that something is happening when it's not. People who watch John Cullen Investigates on Fridays on Patreon and Subscribestar will know that John is he's an illusionist. He enjoys sleight of hand. Well, don't go anywhere, everybody. I think the broadcast was cut, but my new technique allows me to bring it right back, so don't hang up. I think we should be back. Let's just make sure the broadcast has resumed. I might have said buffering. Yeah, buffering, because what happened was I just lost signal, but using the new, let's just see if it worked. Are we back? I hope we're back. People say it's back. Fine now. You should see my face, but I don't see it on this other phone. We are back. Okay, good. Yes, it's back. Now I lost my train of thought here. I was like, yeah, we're back. Great. Oh, this is frozen. Something happened here. Whoa. This is totally freaking out. Okay. Wow, see, just lost 200 viewers just in that short disruption. So you can see how even minor disruptions impact this. It is so difficult to do these shows. And it's just even more difficult when you have an army of morons trying to stop you from doing it. They can be quite effective. Yeah, that woman's right. This is just astounding how there's no traffic, tons of snow. Very easy to be injured walking around in the snow in New York. You have to be careful. Can't see the curbs. There's lots of ice going on under here. This is going to be a mess for days. Oh, I haven't addressed another issue. Well, maybe I did. It's hard for me to remember. Just walking around trying to keep everything straight. So I was supposed to leave last night, start this road trip, try to find a new place to live, because people see you can't walk around New York City without it being a pain in the ass. But I mean, it's supposed to be snowing like this through tomorrow, so I might not leave until Wednesday. Also, a lot of people were sad about, you know, missing out on New York City walk-arounds with Charles. So I'll talk to Charles later today. Maybe we'll do one more closing in episode on Wednesday. Maybe I'll leave Wednesday night, Thursday. I mean, again, this is my schedule. A lot of black cars driving around today, huh? I guess Uber SUVs. I mean, if I was going somewhere to see somebody in the hospital or do something important or something like that, I suppose I might have taken the risk of driving last night, but why? Why risk it? There's just no need. So that will be happening soon, but definitely delayed a few days by this really huge snowstorm. I want to try to learn more about Vice News. I definitely want to understand why they wouldn't contact me to verify something in their fake news documentary before putting it in there and defaming me and smearing me and attempting to associate me with something that quite obviously is being used to destroy people's careers and discredit them. It almost seems as if that is their objective. Disney invested in Vice News, you know? So it's interesting. It's like when, you know, when Toyota is like not hip, so they come up with Scion, right? It's made by Toyota. It's just a different brand. They want skateboarders or millennials or whoever to buy those. So they change the name, they change the brand, and they put out the same crap under a different brand. I think that's what Vice News is doing. I think that they are just more, you know, bought and sold, mainstream horseshit put out under an alternative brand name to make people think it's something other than what it is, which appears to be a giant smear campaign run by idiots. Maybe it's not a smear campaign. Maybe Marley Clements is just the most irresponsible journalist in New York City. people can decide that for themselves. I can't get the woman on the phone. Might have to send her an email. Might have to send her a legal letter. If people know Marley, have her get in touch. Maybe I've got it all wrong. Maybe she's an honest, hardworking documentarian and not a screenwriter and an actress. Maybe. I don't know. Well, this is kind of the loop I wanted to walk so that people could get an idea of what's going on in New York City. There's always that question. Even when I'm sitting in the apartment and you're watching the news about the weather, there's always that question of, what's it like actually in New York City? Is it sticking? How many, inches have accumulated on the ground? New York is interesting because, the ground is kind of thin and there's steam running under there and subways and stuff. So the ground is usually warmer than the air. And even if there's a lot of snow, it sometimes doesn't accumulate. But this is a burly snowstorm for sure. So yeah, that's basically it. Shops continue to close. Even things that aren't out of business are closed today due to the weather. And that's problematic for people. If you don't have food in your place, you're in a bad spot right now. And I've said it many times, the primary concern is not having the power go out, which so far we've been all right. But yeah, I really do think that the Wall Street bets is the same kind of approach to Wall Street as the 17th letter of the alphabet is to politics. They basically want to get the investors on the proverbial Capitol steps and then create a catastrophe and pin it on them to achieve some objective that perhaps isn't clear yet, but may be, and it may become clear once it's too late. Like this Water Buffalo Lodge David Lee Roth face makeup shaman guy who's ready to flip on Trump. Have you noticed how many people have, quote, flipped on Trump? It's the same thing these guys tried to do with me. Remember when Quinn Michaels created a fight out of nowhere? I went to see that guy in the hospital when he was dying, and his own family didn't want to see him. I thought he was a friend. That was really low. And then he just created a fight out of nothing on air. And that was it. That broke the relationship. That broke the collaboration. And then right away, all these same people that I'm talking about were like, oh, yeah, Quinn's going to be the Crowdsource the Truth whistleblower. Said the same thing about Susan Holmes. Oh, whistleblower. This is what they're doing with Scaramucci to the president, to the ex-president, to the former president Donald Trump. Scaramucci, Michael Cohen. Have people noticed Chris Boozy promoting Michael Cohen's podcast? Is that just a coincidence, or is Chris Boozy, who also works with the Brookings Institution, has the Brookings Institution captured Michael Cohen? They do have a lot of lawyers that they're associated with. Ben Witty's Lawfare blog is there. That Lawfare blog, it's up to all kinds of stuff. That's where Matt Tate and Shane Harris shared all their false information about Peter Smith's death that was promoted by Ben Witty's. And just like our friend Marley Clements, they don't want to see the evidence that refutes what they're saying. They don't even want to acknowledge it. They don't even want to answer the phone. So that's not a very thorough investigation. By the way, if there's anybody who has actual evidence with regard to anything that I say, I talk to those people all the time. Now, of course, the social engineers try to take advantage of that by sending me people who use fake names and fake evidence, and they try to convince me of things, but that's not how that works. You've got to be a legitimate source. When I go to these people, I'm not using a fake name and an anonymous Twitter handle and not telling them who I am. I say I'm Jason Goodman. I call them on the phone. I go to see them in their office. Everybody knows where I am. Everybody knows who I am. I'm not hiding anything. I'm not faking anything. So there's a difference. And people have to be just really skeptical of all the information you hear from anybody. Friends, carefully. Just be skeptical. Area. 7th Avenue, I usually lose reception. So hopefully we can avoid that. But there's a lot of social engineering going on, folks, and I would be very skeptical. But you know what else? You know what else has got me thinking about all this? Who do we know that was super opposed to naked short selling and very technologically sophisticated? Patrick Byrne. And he got real close to Donald Trump there at the end. He was hanging out with Sidney Powell and Michael Flynn. I don't know where Patrick Byrne was on the whole 17th letter of the alphabet, but you know, he's another guy. He came out with this fantastic story about bribing Hillary Clinton, working with the FBI. And then when I had him on, I said, boy, it sure sounds to me like you were the target of that operation. Maria Butina, was that the girl's name? See, and it always goes back to Russia, too. There's a lot going on in Russia right now. There are huge protests about this guy, Navalny. What's his name? Alexei, something like that. Navalny. They put him in jail. And Ben Wittes of the Brookings Institution said, oh, this is Putin's biggest opposition. Is it? I never heard of that guy before, and people are saying he's a comedian. Are we sure he's not just some puppet who they're trying to put in there, get everybody riled up along the lines of the 17th letter of the alphabet, get them, you know, rioting and protesting and put pressure on local law enforcement there in Moscow or wherever else? What do we got going on right here? Because that would be an effective way of screwing up Russia the way they've screwed up the United States. Constant riots about whatever. Pressure on Putin, demonize Putin, get some stupid puppet in there. I guess Joe is not a common name in Russia, but Navalny. If you haven't heard about this Navalny guy, pay attention. Seems like a plant to me. Seems like another fake operation. Who is doing these? Who is running these? Could it be a crew associated with the former president of the United States? Wasn't Michael Flynn Barack Obama's director of the Defense Intelligence Agency? And sure, he was fired and he broke away and they prosecuted him with Sidney Powell and Emmett Sullivan, but that was weird too. Emmett Sullivan did a lot of weird stuff, and you know, it fits the mold. Just like Water Buffalo Lodge David Lee Roth shaman guy is ready to testify against Trump. Oh, he was a shaman. He was a huge supporter. Now he's ready to testify against. Michael Flynn was down with Obama until he wasn't, and now he's a hero to the anti-Obama crew that supports President Trump. I'm sorry, I don't trust him. Tracy Beans is involved with that too. Tracy Diaz interviewed Patrick Byrne. That was quite strange. That coincided with Patrick Byrne not wanting to speak with me anymore. I haven't been able to get his people on the phone at all. I thought our first interview was very good, and I think I must have sent some message about, hey, I'm a little concerned that you're interviewing with Tracy Beans. I'm concerned because she's lied to me, and she's lied about me. And in my book, that makes her a liar. Oh, low battery. Well, we're almost near the end. See, it's that side of the street that usually cuts it off, so hopefully being over here, maybe that won't happen. Anyway, again, I track these characters to help me understand these narratives, and then conversely, I can track other narratives, and it helps me understand new characters sometimes. So it's not about reading the drops or doing whatever it is that they're telling you to do. Remember, George used to always tell me, oh, don't pay attention to those trolls. Don't bother Robert David Steele. Just ignore Manuel Chavez. No, I'm not going to ignore that. I mean, if you find termites in your house, do you ignore it and wait until they rot out the whole house and destroy the place? Or do you try to figure out where they're coming from, how bad the problem is, and how to mitigate or eliminate it? So anyway, these are just some thoughts on a snow day here. Yeah, low battery. Okay, so we're about to lose the battery here. That just went from 20% to 10% in seconds. So rather than some sort of abrupt ending happening, just going to thank everybody for watching. Remind people to become sponsors on patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth or subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. It's the first of the month, so it's a great time to sponsor. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention, I am beta testing the Crowdsource the Truth video server. It's currently only compatible with Subscribestar, and most people aren't going to notice a difference at all. New shows continue to be published on Patreon and Subscribestar, but the legacy library that was lost when Vimeo blitzed the channel a while ago, that's being restored on Subscribestar. So if there's anybody who's on Patreon and wants access to that, send me an email. We'll get you set up on Subscribestar. We're going to continue beta testing, working on getting it to work with Patreon. Hopefully that'll happen pretty soon. Don't know when. Development is a big thing. There's a lot of aspects of it that are out of my control. But we're forging ahead. So, please become a sponsor. Now is also a great time for people to sponsor the Crowdsource the Truth Counter Lawfare Fund. You can go to crowdsourcethetruth.com and click on any of those options. That's going to get you an annual subscription on Subscribestar, so you'll be able to enjoy a huge amount of the library that's being restored and is back online for people to watch. And it's a great way to help me fight some of the social engineers that are trying to end Crowdsource the Truth permanently. So thanks for watching, everybody. We got a new Popeye's chicken over there that just opened, so there's a lot of corporate junk food that's coming in as the small businesses close. But yeah, the battery is almost totally flat over here, so I'm going to say goodbye to everybody, and hopefully my glasses didn't fall out of my pocket. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. I'll be back tonight with Jimmy and Joanne Moriarty at 8 o'clock.